Hey guys, we have a huge update coming to Forerunner and subsequently coming to Global very soon, and we have a lot of good stuff. Like, Venoma is finally getting buffed, Gwendalin is getting buffed, which leads to us probably getting a Gwendalin banner for Christmas. And then there's also a little bit of a hint of a new unit with a new bond skill, with a very strong unit. So I'm going to go over all of that, of course. As is customary, I do have to preface that this is coming to Forerunner on the 20th, so tomorrow. On global servers, this usually comes about a month later, okay? It can vary, obviously, and things are still subject to change, but generally it comes about the same a month later, okay? So expect it around then. And yeah, let's get into it. So starting off, we have some Guild Wars stuff, which I'm going to breeze through a little bit. We are actually getting an A and B tier league system. This makes it, something that happens after Season 12, during Season 11, Season Settlement. All guilds below Platinum 1 will be assigned to the B tier league. Then the A tier league is going to be anyone above Platinum 1. So Platinum 2 to Platinum 3 and then Overlord is all going to be in the tier A. And basically, we're going to have A and B leagues are going to use different maps, which is very, very interesting. Then we're getting like tier evaluation, blah, 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 blah. And then we're also getting a couple other things related to that. We're also getting different maps, obviously, like it says. We're getting different maps depending on the league system you're in. We're getting new theme style avatar borders and emotes for seasonal rewards. There's a new Demon Soldier, Tormented Banshee, which is the thing that explodes. We're getting the Gauntlet for Season 11 with a schedule that doesn't matter to Global Server. And then we're getting Golden Guards in Mystery Demon Chests. So, whatever. And then we get to the actual interesting stuff, which is the hero. And we are going to start with Gwendalin. Gwendalin has probably the reputation of being the worst limited in the game. People say that Lady Mina's the worst. That is cap. Gwendalin, mind my swearing, is total and utter dog shit. Gwendalin is so bad. She is only for Gear Dungeon 1, 10 and below, being the best option, which is replaceable by Vortex and Epic. And apart from that, Gwendalin is terrible everywhere. Gwendalin's the worst limit in the game, but they're trying to remedy that a little bit. So let's go over some of the changes. I'm going to pull up right here my global account, and we're going to look at how she functions right now, and then see how she is changed. So first of all, we're getting changes to Icy Shell, which applies a shield equal to 70% max HP to all allies in range for 10 seconds. This shield is affected by healing effect. If we look at Icy Shell, which is going to be the ultimate, it's actually grants a shield to one ally in range, which can absorb damage equal to 80% of Gwendalin's max HP. Each of the surrounding allies gains a shield with half the strength. So now, instead of this being the single ally which gets the big shield, then distributes half of it, so it's 80% on the initial ally, 40% on the other. Instead, this is getting lowered to 70%, but it's being affected by everyone, or every ally in range is being affected by this. So instead of it just being one ally and a small distribution, and it's only, half of what the initial ally is getting, it's just 70% to all of them. This is becoming Vortex ult, but better, basically. Then we're getting Shield of Hope. When a shield applied by this hero to an ally expires, restores 10% of the target's max HP and grants 2% rage for 1 second. So if we go back to the kit, you can see that we are getting big change here. So Gwendalin doesn't currently generate rage at all, and it's only the 10% max HP when the shields disappear. Now it's making it 2% rage for 1 second. So it's something. It's a difference. If you use any frequent rage regener like Elwyn or Eirlys, this is essentially useless, and it's very rare for this to happen, but it is undeniably a good change, right? She gives rage now. And then Frigid Flurry, when a shield applied by this hero to an ally expires, it inflicts 10% vulnerability physical damage, and 8 seconds slow, and 1 second freeze on up to 3 nearby enemies. Very conditional. I never see this happen for people who use Gwendalin. But when the shields for allies are gone, deals damage equal to 10% of Gwen's max HP to up to 2 enemies around the allies and inflicts freeze. It's actually closer to 15% damage. And then the freeze is 0.5 seconds. So they're doubling the freeze duration, they're making it inflict slow, and they're making it inflict physical vulnerability, which makes it actually do something, because doing damage based off of Gwendalin is just so useless. This actually has a use at being CC based. Moving on to the Awakenings, A1, when Frigid Flurry is triggered, the number of enemy targets +1, and the vulnerability physical damage effect increases to 20%. So it makes the vulnerability that will be on this passive a little bit stronger, and it's doubling the potency of the A1. Once again, don't think it's going to be the craziest, amazing change ever, but it definitely is better. A3, when taking fatal damage, gains Unyielding for 5 seconds. During this time, all allies within the hero's basic attack range restore 10% of their max HP per second, can be triggered up to 1 time per battle. Going over to the A3, you can see that allies around the main target of Icy Shell also gained a full shield, well, this is being incorporated in her main kit. So the A3 is going to be additive, essentially, and it's going to make her harder to kill. The A5, after casting Icy Shell, increases max HP by 10% permanently, stacks up to 3 times, which is good on paper, but it's an A5 of Unlimited, which is already kind of terrible. When Icy Shell is triggered, permanently increases max HP by 8%. It's just 10% now, essentially. So what are they changing? They're essentially making the ultimate substantially better, in my opinion, which is really, really good. The ultimate was very clunky. It only affected one person, then the people around it, made it kind of difficult. I like it. And then the other changes, the rage change is good, but it's very conditional. And overall, I think Gwendolyn's still really bad. But it is some decent changes, and she's better now. So I guess that's a win we'll have to take. And this definitely points towards her banner coming very soon. The real person that is important to talk about is, apart from Gwendolyn, who has needed a buff for a long time, Venoma has needed a buff for a long time, and her buff is not bad. So let's go over it, obviously. Venoma Snakeblood Empress has been reworked into an AoE mage, finally. For those of you guys who don't know, she does single target damage apart from her ultimate, which is so terrible for a mage, it is insane. All damage types have been changed to AoE magic damage. Below are the changes. The basic attack attacks up to 3 enemies, dealing 120% damage. The ultimate, Serpentine Curse, after a brief channeling, deals 560% damage to enemies in the front area and inflicts Hex for 10 seconds. If we look, you can see that it is going to do about the same, and the Hex is going to be double the length. Alright, so they're just doubling the Hex length. And Hex is one of the worst debuffs in the game, but they are buffing it a little bit. Not enough, though, unfortunately. 35% continuous magic damage per second cannot be dispelled. If we look at the actual Venoma, you can see that the Hex is 20%. That's almost double the strength of Hex, but Hex is so bad right now and does no damage that I don't foresee this being actually good unless you're early game, which I guess would be okay. Then we get the Olden Curse. When inflicting Hex on enemies, also inflicts 50% slow for 6 seconds. Going over to the kit, you can see that when inflicting Hex on an enemy, slows them out by 50% for 4 seconds. So they are making it 2 seconds longer, which is actually quite decent. That's a good change, in my opinion. Going on to Cursing Gaze. After every 5 attacks, the next attack deals 280% damage to enemies and inflicts Hex for 10 seconds. If you look at Cursing Gaze, once again, you can see that it is after attacking 5 times, just like it says. The next attack deals... Wait, is that 110% extra damage? That's so mediocre, what the heck? Well, it's 280% now, which is a huge increase. And then the Hex is also going to be double the length, and keep in mind that Hex is stronger. And yeah, that's a good change as well. And then the A5 basic attack target quantity plus 3. Instead of targeting 3 people, it's going to target 5 is my understanding. And it's just doubling the strength of the A5. Overall, I think it's a good change. The thing is, right now, Matrix is very hero locked, and people are running Nestia instead of Venoma, even though Nestia is purely single target, because Venoma is so ass. And people are still going to run Nestia because her Lord bonus is actually good, and Venoma's Lord bonus does literally nothing outside of the early game. So Venoma is still going to be garbage because her Lord bonus is so shit. The thing is, this actually makes her better in Matrix. So if you don't have Nestia or Cyrus, Venoma will actually do something because she will become more AoE based. You know, Hex is getting twice as good, even though that's still not enough. Overall, I think the changes are good. I think that she's going to be a decent amount better. In my opinion, this just makes her, instead of the worst Lord in the game, I think this definitively, inarguably makes Twin Fiend the worst. And then I still think, from what I'm reading here, I still think Venoma is going to be one of the worst Lords in the game. If I'm just being completely honest with y'all, I don't think it's the best buff ever. But it's a change, right? And people have been asking for this buff for a long time since it's been announced. And it's out. You know, it's better. She doesn't need to be the strongest Lord in the game, but I just wish they did a little bit more. Moving on, we have Numera, which we're getting an ultimate talent change, which makes it so that instead of it being a basic attack has a 50% chance to launch 1 additional Grimthorn Spike, it does it every 2 basic attacks. This eliminates the RNG, which is huge. Nestia the Iron Maiden, I cannot speak today, sorry. The Iron Maiden, the A1 has an extra poison immunity duration. This is essentially useless apart from APOC, where I feel like it's not really the most important. I think this Dia's A1 is really bad, just because she's only really for damage, and a lot of the content you use her in, you don't really need debuff immunity to poisons. Poison is only for APOC, and it's not really necessary, but it's getting better. It's something. Moving on, we have Sadie, the Rallying Songbird. Song of Courage, skills, max HP, effect description is modified. It used to be increases the target's max HP by 30%. After it increases max HP to allies, and the max HP increases max HP by 30%. Basically saying, hey, this actually affects allies. Then we get Philippa, which is basic attack skill description modified, added prioritizes attacking airborne units. And then we get the big thing, which is Eirlys is getting a new bond skill. When you obtain Rivenhall, which we don't know anything about, right? The Hornbound Sovereign, to unlock the following bonus effect. When a healing prayer triggers healing, increases Eirlys' attack speed by 100 for 5 seconds. That's a really good bomb skill, and this gives us a little bit of insight into a hero that is coming in the future. Now, Rivenhall, the Hornbound Sovereign, this screams Northerner to me. And what's something Northerner that could be coming? Well, we have heard rumors from the developers themselves that we may be getting a Northerner Lord eventually. So that's what I'm kind of leaning towards. It could be literally anything. I don't know what the hell I'm saying, but, you know, it's a bond skill for Eirlys, and it's a good bond skill, so that's pretty hype right there. We're also getting some artifacts. These are like buffs that aren't necessarily buffs. Kayn is getting a new exclusive artifact, which is huge, called the Final Fang, and it's actually good. It's 30% AoE damage, which is obviously already amazing, and then it also makes him kind of like a Magda. It buffs the allies around him penetration by 15%. Makes it kind of like a worse Magda, but he also obviously does his normal stuff like generating cost. It'll be his best exclusive by far, even at base, in my opinion. Then we're also getting an exclusive artifact skill description modification for Regulus. Before, during the ultimate, increases max HP by an initial 20%, applies max HP of 15% to allies in ultimate range. Now, it's just changing that to this, but it says only when stronger than the current buff debuff on the same attribute. Whatever. Others, autofight optimization promotion insignia stages and heroes visit stages now support autofight gear recording, which is good. Autofight experience optimization. Now you can adjust their gear and artifacts, which is so huge. It's actually insane. This was probably the most annoying thing for me, is you were locked into not changing gear, even though the gear save exists, and it just was so annoying. And now you can actually change it. That's like the best change in this update. Holy. Watcher trials up to 18, new achievements related to it. Quick cast optimization is huge. Individual hero skill autocasting can now be controlled. Commanders can enable this feature by going to system settings, gameplay, individual hero skill, quick cast control. That is something I've been asking for a while. You know, a lot of the times I don't want to switch Diao-chan when my heroes get low in like arena, right? And it's really annoying and I can't click auto ults. Now you can, right? You can just disable it. Fix an issue with Azarith when he occasionally failed to replace textures when switching. And then stage support feature optimized. Overall, good update. I mean, Venoma and Gwendalin are undeniably better. I still think they're not going to be great, but obviously we aren't using them yet, so maybe I could be wrong. And then, you know, some other changes are decent, but mostly just a bunch of description changes. Kane exclusives are really good, and then the auto fight optimization's amazing, and then the quick cast I really like. So that's all stuff coming very soon. And yeah, I mean, that's coming. Stay tuned, I guess. I don't know, man. That's it for me. See you guys later. That's just signing out.